Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you're stepping into the shadowy world of a private investigator. It's a place where, every seemingly innocuous call can quickly lead you down an unexpected, often pretty perilous rabbit hole, and that's precisely where we're going today. We've got a truly fascinating stack of case files on the table, two distinct, really high-stakes investigations that, well, they unravel in the most unpredictable ways. Our mission really is to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight from these incredibly detailed accounts. We're going to be peeling back the layers of crime, human behavior, and the often surprising ways information itself can become the ultimate weapon or, a shield. So get ready for a deep dive into the raw intricacies of criminal investigation. We're going from a mysterious murder at an exclusive club all the way to a complex, chilling extortion scheme. We'll explore the ingenious investigative techniques, the unexpected twists that redefine everything, and of course, the deeply human elements that make these stories so utterly compelling. You're about to see just how crucial the acquisition, manipulation, and frankly, the protection of knowledge becomes in these unfolding dramas.
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here, and you'll see this again and again, is the sheer adaptability our PI needs. This isn't the by-the-book procedural police work you might picture. Not at all. This is about operating outside conventional systems, navigating these incredibly chaotic scenes, dealing with fiercely uncooperative witnesses. I mean, really uncooperative. And then painstakingly piecing together fragmented, often contradictory information, just trying to construct a coherent, ideally irrefutable picture of what truly happened. It's a masterclass not just in, data collection, but in reading people, understanding hidden motives, things maybe even the perpetrators don't fully grasp about themselves, and strategically leveraging every tiny piece of intelligence, even whispers, rumors, anything.
Absolutely. And the first case we're diving into, it really throws you and our PI right into the absolute deep end from the very first moment. Okay, so picture the scene with me. The exclusive, members-only pleasures club. Imagine the dim, sort of seductive lighting, the low hum of hushed conversations, maybe the clink of expensive glasses, you know the type. A certain clientele seeking a certain kind of experience. And at the heart of it all, the undisputed headliner stripper, Vivian Ward. That's her stage name. Her real name was Vivian Daniels. And then bang, without warning, a sudden, unexplained death. That ominous beginning, it just sets the stage immediately, doesn't it? It instantly signals this isn't just some simple tragedy, it's a puzzle. Lots of missing pieces.
It does, and it sets a very specific tone. But what's truly unusual, and immediately raises a significant red flag right from the start, is who makes that first call. It's not the police. That would be standard, right? Protocol. Instead, it's Lyndon Sussman, the club's general manager. He's described rather unflatteringly as rat-faced, and he calls our PI directly. This immediate bypass of official channels, it just screams that there's something the club or maybe Sussman himself is desperate to hide, or something they absolutely do not want the police finding. So this initial act of concealing information, of controlling the narrative from the outset, well, it already makes knowledge a powerful shield for someone. The very first piece of information you get, the phone call itself, is already deeply compromised,
Precisely. And the PI, getting this highly irregular call, understanding the implicit urgency, the potential for a cover-up, she doesn't waste a single second once she arrives. Her first demands to Sussman are incredibly telling. Shows her methodical, no-nonsense approach. She doesn't just ask, general questions. She immediately demands a full client list from the night of the incident. And the names and addresses of all staff, not just the dancers, bartenders, bouncers, everyone who was there. She's not just looking at the body. She's immediately trying to map out the entire human network, the whole ecosystem of the club. This is the PI gathering that essential foundational knowledge, right? The raw data points for her investigation. It's an immediate assertion of control, demanding transparency where others might want to hide things.
It speaks volumes about her immediate understanding that a crime scene isn't just, a static physical space. It's dynamic. It's alive with potential witnesses, hidden conflicts, submerged connections, and that client list, especially for an exclusive members-only place like Pleasures, that would be an absolute goldmine, a roster of potentially powerful, influential people who might have seen something, heard something, or maybe have something significant to lose if things come out.
Yeah.
Just knowing that demographic is incredibly valuable. It tells her who might be pressured, who might have motives to conceal things, who holds, significant social capital.
Right. And just as our PI is preparing to finally examine Vivian's body to start that meticulous work, Well, this isn't your typical quiet, sterile crime scene. What happens next is just utterly unconventional. It's a full-blown, chaotic cat fight erupting between two other dancers, Candy Cane and Baby Doll. They literally rolled into the room, hair pulling, scratching at each other's eyes.
Hmm.
Baby Doll even gets a bite in. It's pure, unadulterated chaos. Just escalates the tension in an already charged room.
And this chaotic situation, RPI handles it with, well, truly remarkable decisiveness. She doesn't hesitate, not for a second. She physically separates them, lands a precise punch on Candy Cane's solar plexus, immediately brings her down, neutralizes the aggression. Then, with this chilling calm, she just asks Baby Doll if she wants to wrestle too. Her whole posture, her tone, leaves no doubt about the answer. It's a textbook example of that no-nonsense approach. It shows her ability to control a volatile environment, sure, through sheer force of will. But it also lets her gather immediate, unfiltered intelligence on their temperaments, the power dynamics, the underlying relationships in that club. She's observing their raw emotional responses, gaining critical insights into their personalities, potential resentments, knowledge that might prove vital later on.
Yes, she establishes this powerful sense of dominance, of control right away, disarms any more theatrics, and only after she's brought order to that immediate chaos does she finally turn her full attention to Vivian, using her medic skills, which, yeah, speaks to a diverse background beyond just investigation. She carefully examines Vivian's very feminine body and the alluring costume she was wearing. And here's where we get our first truly crucial piece of, like, forensic level insight, a detail that sharply focuses her initial suspicions. The PI notes the care that was taken avoiding damage to Vivian's costume. This seemingly small observation, when you combine it with the sheer, almost disproportionate violence of Candy Cane's outburst during that cat fight, well, it immediately makes Candy Cane the prime suspect in the PI's mind. The physical evidence, even subtle stuff like the pristine costume, combined with that behavioral anomaly. It powerfully informs her initial hypothesis. It's just a killer with either a weird, almost respectful fixation on Vivian's persona, maybe someone meticulous enough to stage the scene, or, I don't know, maybe someone who valued that costume more than Vivian's life.
It's an absolutely critical observation. It shifts the focus from a general who did it to a more targeted who had the motive and the means to be so careful. The fact that the killer took care not to damage the costume suggests, yeah, maybe a twisted reverence or maybe a professional's cold calculation to leave minimal forensic evidence behind. And Candy's disproportionate rage, her readiness to brawl like that, it points to a deep underlying animosity, a simmering resentment that could easily erupt into lethal violence. This early piece of knowledge about the costume, seen through the lens of human behavior in that cutthroat environment, it's vital. It's the PI connecting seemingly disparate facts to form an initial, compelling theory.
So, with Candy Cane firmly in her sights as the initial prime suspect, the PI prepares for the next crucial phase, interrogations. But before she can even begin to systematically question anyone, boom, another unexpected, almost theatrical interruption. Vixen Dietrich bursts into the room, her reptilian eyes scanning the whole scene with this, predatory intensity. Vixen immediately confronts Sussman, words sharp, accusatory, aggressively claiming Vivian's now vacant star spot. She reminds him, "You promised when Daniels was gone I was the new star." Sussman, for his part, just gives her this terse command to sit down and keep your mouth shut. It really sets the scene for the cutthroat competition among the dancers, doesn't it? Shows the intense rivalries, the hunger for status, the immediate opportunism that Vivian's death has created.
It absolutely highlights the brutal, intense professional rivalries in that kind of environment. A performer's death creates an immediate power vacuum. Everyone's vying for that top spot, and Vixen's bold, almost callous claim immediately puts her in a specific light. This kind of competitive knowledge among the dancers, understanding who wants what, who's willing to do what to get it, it often reveals motives that might otherwise stay hidden under a veneer of, normalcy. It's a key insight into the social dynamics that could easily lead to violent conflict.
The PI, determined to get to the truth, tries her array of con man tricks on Candy Cane first. She even takes the precaution of leaving her phone secretly recording the conversation. Now, when we say con man tricks, we're not talking about, outright deception in a crude way. It's more subtle psychological stuff. Maybe feigning certainty she doesn't entirely have or implying knowledge she hasn't actually acquired yet. Designed to probe for a reaction, see if Candy would overcorrect, stumble, maybe reveal something in her denial. It's a delicate dance, inference, and misdirection, trying to crack open a tightly sealed narrative without overt force. But despite these nuanced efforts, Candy has nothing to say. Just maintains this stoic silence that leaves the PI genuinely unsure. Is she innocent? or just remarkably smart. Baby doll, when questioned, also seems to know nothing, which makes the PI momentarily question if she's losing her touch. A little moment of self-doubt, which humanizes her, shows the mental toll. She dismisses both of them, tells them not to talk to anyone else, trying to control the information flow. But then, unexpectedly, the breakthrough comes with Vixen Dietrich.
Yes, and this is where Vixen's tough, aggressive exterior just crumbles, surprisingly fast. Despite her dramatic entrance, her initial posturing, she broke down almost immediately when the PI started her focused interrogation. Her vulnerability, surprisingly, provides the critical hidden clue that completely transforms the investigation. She points to a secret cabinet built into the floor behind the stripper pole, a detail only an insider would know. It's where dancers retrieve bottles of Dom Perignon, apparently often for special performances. This seemingly mundane detail about the club's atmosphere doesn't just add color. It immediately points to a highly plausible murder weapon, a heavy bottle, in a discreet location.
And indeed, it is the murder weapon. The PI wastes no time. She investigates the cabinet, finds the very bottle, blood and hair near the bottom of the bottle. After dusting it, no prints are found, which, initially might seem like a dead end. But the PI, drawing on her detailed knowledge of the environment, immediately deduces this, suggests it was either wiped meticulously clean or, more commonly, that the killer wore gloves, which, as the PI astutely notes, is common practice among dancers. For various reasons, protecting their hands during routines, maybe. So the specific knowledge about the club's hidden features, shared willingly by Vixen in that moment of vulnerability, directly leads to identifying the murder weapon, albeit one with limited immediate forensic value.
Exactly. Vixen, an unexpected source of information given her initial aggression, provides the crucial piece of the puzzle, solidifies the physical evidence. The lack of prints is a setback, sure, but the PI immediately connects it to the common practice of dancers wearing gloves. That allows her to immediately narrow down the potential pool of suspects from the larger club population, focusing specifically on the dancers. It's a calculated deduction based on available knowledge about the profession, the environment. Shows her ability to adapt her focus based even on negative forensic findings.
Okay, moving on. Our PI, now with a murder weapon identified but no clear perpetrator, begins a more thorough search for more clues within the club itself. And that's when she makes a truly valuable find near the stage. Man's Rolex, very pricey. With distinctive initials LS engraved on the back. This is huge, a pivotal moment. You'd have to be incredibly distracted or in an extreme hurry, right, to drop such an expensive personal item in such a prominent location. It immediately suggests a connection to someone who was not only present, but deeply involved in whatever happened.
And the PI immediately connects this Rolex to Lyndon Sussman, the club manager. The initials match. This is a powerful piece of circumstantial evidence, fundamentally shifts the direction of the case. It strongly implies Sussman was near the stage, potentially distracted, maybe in a struggle, or directly involved at the time of Vivian's death. This immediately transforms him from just the rat-faced general manager who called her to a primary suspect, all based on the knowledge gleaned from a single discarded item. Makes his initial call for a private investigator look way more sinister now.
Now, armed with this new potent suspicion, the PI takes a significant and, risky step. She decides to break into Sussman's house to search for further clues. Shows her willingness to operate in those legal gray areas when official channels are bypassed. The tension is palpable as she's going through his mail when, wham, dramatic turn, she's caught in the act by Sussman himself. Talk about a dramatic confrontation. The stakes immediately shoot up for both of them.
It's an incredibly high-stakes moment, a direct face-off. The PI is operating right on the edge of legality. But she doesn't flinch. She directly accuses Sussman of murder, lays out her reasoning, the Rolex found at the scene, and his apparent inability to afford his lavish home on a club manager's salary. Sussman tries to deny the watch is his, claims lots of guys have those initials, which, okay, plausible generally, but a weak defense here. But under the PI's intense pressure, the weight of her accusation, he cracks just enough to give up the client list from that night. This is the PI using a direct, aggressive form of knowledge warfare, right? Confronting him with what she knows to extract what she needs. Prying open his carefully constructed wall of secrecy.
He does dismiss her persistent questions about how he affords his lifestyle, though, curtly stating it's none of your business, which, of course, only deepens the PI's suspicion about his finances, potential illicit activities. But the client list, extracted under duress, proves invaluable. It reveals 3 specific names at the club that night: Larry Senwick, Ellis Eston, and Nero Wadi. Plus, it identifies 2 other dancers not working that night: Cherry Pop Tart and Wicked Wanda. More knowledge, more paths to explore, a wider network of potential witnesses and suspects emerges. The PI's persistence here, even when hitting a wall, is key. She keeps pushing for information, expanding her reach.
Absolutely. The PI's strategic thinking here is exemplary. She might not get all the answers from Sussman, no, but she forces him to provide more information, expanding that pool of potential witnesses and suspects, people who might know something or reveal more under questioning. The financial angle on Sussman remains an open, intriguing question, a dangling thread suggesting a much larger, darker undercurrent to the club's operations beyond just dancing. This new list represents a fresh set of avenues for information gathering, each one a potential key to unlocking the truth.
And those new leads quickly begin to unravel the club's dark underbelly, confirming the PI's suspicions that there's far more going on here than a simple murder. The PI first visits Cherry Pop-Tart, who, under the right approach, spills all the club gossip, reveals a grim truth that some of the girls do a little more than dance, and that Sussman sets it all up and takes a 50% cut of their illicit earnings.
This is a truly critical revelation. It doesn't just expose the true, sordid nature of the club's operations. It exposes Sussman's deep, cynical involvement in illicit activities. This specific knowledge of the club's hidden, illegal business model completely changes the context of Vivian's death. It immediately provides a strong, financially driven motive for Sussman, especially when Cherry reveals Vivian's integrity regarding these extra services. That's where just a conflict, not just about performance, but about morality and, well, illicit revenue.
Yes, because Vivian, it turns out, wouldn't do it. As the club's headliner, she commanded the highest price for her legitimate dancing, but she drew a firm line at anything more. Cherry also reveals a huge blowout between Vivian and Sussman the night before her death. A heated argument that turned into a direct confrontation. Vivian had threatened to leave, taking the higher ed rollers, her loyal, high-spending clientele with her, basically getting Sussman's most lucrative revenue stream. Sussman, desperate to maintain control and profit, retaliated, threatened to replace her with Candy. This knowledge of their intense conflict, a direct power struggle over clients and income, is a powerful new motive. And Cherry, importantly, even links Nero Wadi to this situation, suggesting he was one of those high rollers Vivian might have taken with her.
That direct link to Nero Wadi is profoundly significant. It suggests he wasn't just a casual patron, he was a high roller, deeply enshrined in the club's illicit activities, potentially benefiting from the extra services side. This makes him a central, potentially complicit figure in this burgeoning blackmail scheme. Cherry's insider knowledge of the club's complex dynamics, its hidden economy, its volatile client relationships, it proves invaluable to the PI. It's the kind of granular, relational information that official investigations often miss, but a PI, with their ability to build trust, navigate unofficial channels, can uncover.
Next, the PI visits Wicked Wanda, another dancer. Wanda largely confirms Cherry's story, corroborating the details of Sussman's illicit enterprise and the tensions. But Wanda adds a truly crucial and, frankly, pretty disturbing detail. Directly links another party to the murder weapon. She reveals that Nero had a real fetish of watching the girls get off on a bottle of champagne.
Now, this is a game changer. This specific, intimate, and deeply uncomfortable piece of knowledge about Nero's fetish. It provides a direct, chilling connection between him, the Pleasures Club, and the murder weapon, that Dom Perignon bottle found by the pole. It's not just circumstantial anymore. It ties him directly to the physical act and the specific unusual weapon. It gives him not only a potential motive perhaps related to some twisted desire for control or a perverted enjoyment of the act, but also a specific unsettling method. Transform him into a primary suspect based on this particular, somewhat shocking detail. The PI is now armed with a powerful piece of psychological insight.
And as she's processing this new, damning information, another development unfolds. Sussman calls the PI, his voice thick with what sounds like genuine fear, seemingly crying. He admits he hasn't been completely honest and, terrified, says he's ready to tell everything. Back at his house, Sussman finally reveals the full, chilling extent of his new revenue stream plan with Nero Wadi, a sophisticated network of secret surveillance cameras discreetly placed in the private dance areas of the club, designed to record clients engaging in extra service. Sussman almost naively described these recordings as mementos, but the PI, with her sharp instincts understanding of the criminal underworld, immediately dismisses that fabrication. Her mind jumps straight to the chilling reality. This isn't about souvenirs. This is a meticulously crafted blackmail operation, designed to hold wealthy, influential clients hostage with their own compromising actions.
The PI's instinct here is absolutely spot on. The idea of mementos for extra service just screams blackmail. This revelation exposes a sophisticated criminal enterprise involving Sussman and Nero, far beyond simple prostitution. The cameras are effectively high-tech knowledge-gathering tools, right? Designed to capture deeply compromising information, to be used as a brutal weapon against wealthy clients, extracting their fortunes through fear and shame. And if Vivian knew about this or was somehow targeted by it or refused to be part of it, well, it provides a very strong life-or-death motive for her murder. Her integrity, combined with her knowledge of the scheme, made her an existential threat to their illicit empire.
So with this new understanding, Nirawati firmly becomes the elusive mastermind the PI needs to confront and bring down. But her first attempt to confront him is met with an unexpected, almost theatrical visitor, Nero's sister, Gabby Houseman, who happens to handle PR for his large tech company, Posca Tech, which he inherited from their family.
Gabby's presence immediately complicates things for the PI. She's described as having a certain intriguing quality, maybe interested in me or just curious about what I want. She even invites the PI to a neutral spot, McCoy's. Nero, however, is far less welcoming, less open. He curtly dismisses Gabby and flatly refuses to talk to the PI, indicates he either already knows or at least strongly suspects something incriminating about her presence. His refusal to talk is itself a powerful piece of information. It's a form of knowledge protection, an attempt to build a wall of silence.
And that leads the PI to McCoy's, where she takes Gabby up on her offer to meet. And Gabby, perhaps feeling more comfortable away from Nero's watchful eye, maybe seeing an opportunity to confide, reveals a critical piece of information. Nero's company, Posca Tech, is in trouble. She explains he had went all in on AI self-driving cars and the tech just wasn't there yet. They are now just trying to keep the company afloat, hinting at deep financial distress.
This is a massive revelation. Provides a powerful, concrete motive for Nero's involvement in such a high-risk criminal enterprise. Nero's company's severe financial struggles give him an overwhelming incentive to engage in a high-risk, high-reward scheme like blackmail, especially one leveraging his tech expertise. The knowledge of his financial desperation explains why he, a seemingly legitimate tech mogul, would get involved in such a venture with Sussman. And, chillingly, why he might resort to extreme violence to protect it if threatened. It paints a picture of a man pushed to desperate measures. And that desperation, well, it's a powerful, dangerous motivator.
Armed with this compelling financial motive, the PI then returns to the club. She quickly locates the hidden surveillance cameras in the private dance areas, confirming Sussman's confession. She also accesses Sussman's computer, but finds no case-related files. Suggests they've been meticulously removed. Understanding the urgency, the likelihood of Nero destroying more evidence, she then decides to take matters into her own hands. Opts to break into Nero's company, Posca Tech, convinced the key evidence must be there.
This illustrates the PI's escalating level of intervention. Her commitment to unconventional methods. With official channels proving ineffective or just too slow, she resorts to more aggressive, direct methods. Understands time is of the essence when dealing with someone as calculating as Nero. The absence of files on Sussman's computer is, in itself, a piece of knowledge. The lack of information indicates a deliberate cleanup, but it still tells her Nero is actively trying to hide his tracks, confirming his guilt.
And here's where things take a truly dark and unexpected turn. Escalates the danger for everyone. A random event, something overheard or observed that the source doesn't detail, reveals horrifying truth. Nero has already grabbed Sussman and brought him back to house to hold him, clearly unhappy about Sussman's confessions to the PI. The PI, of course, doesn't know this at the time. She's on her way to Posca Tech, laser in hand, to disable a camera and use what she finds to pick an easy lock. Despite searching thoroughly through Nero's office, she finds no clues. The evidence, it seems, has either been moved or destroyed.
The abduction of Sussman signifies the increasing stakes. Nero's sheer desperation to control the flow of information. He's resorting to brute force, literal kidnapping and torture to suppress knowledge that could incriminate him. The PI's break-in at Posca Tech, while failing to yield immediate clues, confirms Nero's extreme carefulness. Or maybe his prior knowledge of what the PI might be looking for and thus what to remove. It's a cat-and-mouse game where information is constantly being hidden, sought, and destroyed.
So she's back to square one with Nero, but she still has a few leads left. The PI then interviews the last witnesses identified from the client list. Larry Senwick confirms his Rolex is not missing. It's securely in his tennis club locker. Definitively rules him out as the LS from the watch found at the club. He also confirms Elliston's friendship with Vivian. This is important for refining the suspect list. It's a process of elimination, right? Using direct testimony to confirm or deny previous assumptions. Constantly updating her understanding based on new data.
This is a critical step in any investigation, the process of elimination. While it might feel like a dead end for that particular lead, it's invaluable for refining the suspect pool. It confirms the PI's initial deduction about the Rolex's significance, even if the owner isn't who she first suspected. Forces her to reevaluate the Sussman angle, focus more intently on the remaining possibilities.
Next, the PI takes another ethically gray but tactically critical step. She breaks into Elliston's house looking for clues, given Elle's friendship with Vivian, and what she finds is a truly unexpected, deeply unsettling twist. She discovers a sewing room, filled floor to ceiling with pictures of Vivian all over the room in various costumes and states of undress, along with Elle herself diligently working on a dancer's costume. This immediately creates a motive-complicated clue, suggests a deeper, perhaps obsessive, almost disturbing connection between Elle and Vivian, far beyond simple friendship. Hints at a psychological element, a fixation that could easily morph into something dangerous.
This is a truly profound and unexpected twist. Introduces a complex psychological element to the case. The sheer volume and nature of the visual evidence in Elle's sewing room points to an intense, possibly unhealthy fixation on Vivian, a level of obsession beyond mere admiration. It's not a clear-cut, financially driven motive like Nero's blackmail scheme. It's profoundly complicated, emotional. Such intense fixation, if spurned or threatened, could absolutely drive extreme, even violent behavior. The PI isn't just collecting facts here. She's collecting deeply personal, emotional insights into human psychology.
The narrative takes another turn when the PI informs Elle of Vivian's death, and Elle faints from the shock. Strongly suggests she didn't know about the murder. Key piece of information ruling her out as the immediate killer. Her father, Ethan Eston, a retired cop, then enters the scene. A new, potentially helpful or maybe scrutinizing presence. Elle, once recovered, also identifies Lana Keene as another dancer who is green with envy that Vivian was the headliner. Brings back that powerful idea of internal dancer rivalries. Reinforces the cutthroat environment and the multiple layers of potential conflict.
The fainting indicates genuine shock and grief. Makes Elle a significantly less likely suspect for direct involvement in the murder, at least. The father, a retired cop, adds a layer of unexpected assistance, potentially, or scrutiny the PI will have to navigate. And Lana Keene, another dancer driven by powerful envy, reinforces the internal club dynamics as a potent source of conflict. Reminds the PI there were many individuals with simmering resentments against Vivian for professional reasons alone.
The PI then makes her way to Sussman's house to follow up on some lingering threads, only to find it completely ransacked. Immediately raises alarms. Suggests he's been silenced. And crucially, amidst the chaos, she discovers a weapons source, doesn't specify what kind, but clearly points to violence with the distinctive PTI Posca-Tech logo emblazoned on it. Chilling detail, directly linking Nero's company to the scene. But the most damning find is a small USB stick with an audio recording. This, combined with the ransacking and the logo, definitively confirms Nero's involvement in Sussman's disappearance, which we, as listeners, already know has turned into Sussman's death. The weapon, the ransacking, the corporate logo, it's all telling a very grim story, leaving no doubt about Nero's escalating violence.
This is the definitive, irrefutable proof. The PTI logo on the weapon directly links Nero to Sussman's abduction and the ransacking, transforms suspicion into horrifying certainty. The USB stick, with an audio recording, represents a critical piece of direct evidence. Raw, unfiltered knowledge captured in the moment that can expose everything about Nero's desperation and brutality. This is where knowledge truly becomes the absolute weapon, a silent witness that speaks volumes. It's the smoking gun, or, well, the recording device in this case.
And this leads, inexorably, to the climax of the first mystery. The PI heads directly to Nero's house, knowing time is short. Instead of attempting a covert entry, she makes an incredibly calculated strategic move. She throws a brick through a sliding glass door. This isn't random vandalism or uncontrolled rage. This is deliberate, tactical, designed to create reasonable cause for the police. Crucial distinction. A PI doesn't have the same legal authority to search as police. However, by creating an obvious visible felony, clear break-in, and then calling 911, she legally justifies the police's subsequent forced entry. It's a strategic manipulation of legal procedure, ensuring any evidence found by law enforcement will be admissible in court, not tainted by an illegal search by the PI herself. She then stealthily enters the house and finds grim confirmation. Sussman tied up and tragically dead.
The PI's move here is incredibly astute. Demonstrates a profound understanding of legal frameworks, police procedure. She doesn't become the vigilante exacting her own justice. Instead, she empowers the official system to act, but on her terms, with her meticulously gathered evidence. Finding Sussman dead is tragic, but critical. Further solidifies Nero's culpability, highlights the brutal, escalating violence, confirms Nero was willing to silence anyone who knew too much.
Instead of engaging Nero directly, which could have led to more violence, the PI makes a highly strategic, almost brilliant move to ensure justice. She immediately calls 911. With remarkable composure, she gives her PI license number, establishing her legitimacy, then precisely and brilliantly directs the police to both bodies. Sussman at Nero's house, Vivian at the Pleasures Club. She identifies Nero Wadi as the killer, lays out her entire case, and then offers all the accumulated evidence gathered throughout her meticulous investigation, from her trunk, the Rolex, the USB stick, everything. She even specifically points out the break-in at Nero's house she just orchestrated to give them additional reasonable cause to enter, ensuring their entry is beyond legal challenge. This entire sequence showcases the PI's extraordinary intelligence, her strategic thinking, her deep knowledge of the legal system, all employed to ensure justice is served efficiently and lawfully, even though she's operating in the gray. She collected all the fragmented knowledge, pieced it into a unified, irrefutable narrative, and presented it in a way that left the authorities no option but to act.
It's a masterful end to the first mystery. Demonstrates a PI's unique role. She's not just finding the killer. She's ensuring conviction by presenting the case in a legally sound, undeniable manner. She understands that getting to the truth is only half the battle. The other half is making that truth stick in a court of law. Her strategic release of information, calibrated for legal impact, is the final weapon she wields.
All right, let's pivot now to our second mystery. A completely different beast, this one. Focusing less on physical violence, more on psychological terror and financial ruin. The extortion of Ariana Armiger. Ari, she prefers. Our client is described as short, thin, striking spiked blue hair, cyan eyes, always wearing current fashion and an armored jacket, a distinct, almost cyberpunk aesthetic. She's driven by this intense obsession with fame and glory, and she's inherited a crippling family debt which ties into her current predicament. Her overarching motivation is vengeance, and her immediate goal is to gain fame and recognition. This gives us a really clear, complex picture of our client and her underlying drives, doesn't it? She's not just a victim, she's a person with her own ambitions and, well, demons.
Her background immediately suggests high stakes, not just for the immediate threat, but for her entire future. An inherited family debt, a burden from the past, coupled with her fierce ambition for fame, creates an incredibly volatile mix. The immediate need for a PI is underscored by a critical, unsettling breakdown in the official system, the system that should protect citizens. This isn't a case where police merely failed. It's one where critical evidence just vanished.
Right, because the problem starts with a frightening, very personal threat. An extortion note discovered at the Pixel Requiem Club, a place Ari likely hangs out, networks, maybe performs. The note itself was chilling. Included a picture of her father, Richard Armiger, in his own living room, emphasizing how close they were. The threat was explicit, truly horrifying. They would take his fingers one finger at a time if a debt wasn't paid. And the note ended with that truly chilling, incredibly specific line. How many fingerless piano players do you know? It's a threat designed to maximize fear, targeting a unique, deeply personal vulnerability.
That's a very specific, very personal threat. Indicates the extortionist possesses intimate insider's knowledge of the father's life, his profession, his vulnerabilities. It's not just about money. It's about a cruel creativity designed to inflict maximum psychological and emotional pain. This kind of targeted knowledge about a victim is a signature of sophisticated extortion.
And the police in action is precisely what drives Ari to our PI. Illustrates the crucial role PIs play when official channels fail. Ari had taken the note directly to the police, followed procedures, but the evidence was shockingly stolen or mysteriously lost. Case summarily closed for lack of evidence. This immediately establishes a clear, pressing need for private investigation. The traditional system, for whatever reason, has failed her, potentially compromised.
This is a critical point about the unique role of a PI. When official channels are compromised, ineffective, maybe even corrupt, PIs step in to navigate those very gray areas where the law falls silent. The stolen evidence is a major, undeniable red flag. Indicates potential corruption, or at the very least, a shocking breakdown in procedure. Makes the case infinitely more complex and dangerous. The knowledge the threat exists, the victim is clear, but the official path to justice is completely blocked by missing information, forcing the PI to rebuild the entire case from scratch.
So, with official avenues exhausted, the PI gets to work. Starts with Ari's father, Richard Armiger, the direct target. Richard is immediately hostile, described as immune to charm. Forces the PI to quickly adapt her usual persuasive tactics. He knew generally about vague threats, but was shocked to learn they were specifically about him, his fingers. Despite his hostility, he admits to being in significant debt and, critically, provides a list of 6 names he owes money to, with Uncle Script Marnetti owing the most. This knowledge of the debt network, the financial connections, is where the PI starts building her case, charting the convoluted landscape of Richard's financial obligations.
Richard's hostility is a significant challenge, a wall of distrust the PI has to navigate. But his admission of debt, and more importantly that specific list of names, is invaluable. Uncle Script Marnetti, being the largest debtor, immediately makes him a prime suspect. He has the most to gain from collecting. The PI is systematically gathering information about the underlying debt ecosystem, understanding that financial pressure is often the root cause of these schemes. It's the groundwork, mapping out financial vulnerabilities and connections.
While en route to the police station, trying to dig deeper into the official investigation's failure, the PI has a chance encounter with Rick, Ariana's father, and a truly enigmatic figure named Ledger Brask on the street. Ledger Brask is described as a big-time cyberpunk, known for a chilling, unique method of debt collection, hacking implants to put very nasty thoughts in his moochers' minds, sort of like Lord Morphus, a reference suggesting a deeply unsettling form of mind control.
Brask's persona immediately establishes him as someone with significant power, but not your typical street thug or brute force enforcer. His method of debt collection psychological manipulation via advanced implants is terrifyingly unique, incredibly sophisticated. It immediately tells the PI he's highly unlikely to be behind a crude, physical threat like finger cutting. His knowledge is technological, neuroscientific, focused on psychological terror, not blunt physical violence. It's a distinct, important piece of character knowledge for the PI to absorb quickly.
And this interaction gets even more interesting. Rick's debt to Brask is casually dismissed as just a few favors, not financial. Brask emphasizes Rick has never welched on a favor, indicates a long-standing, informal yet ironclad agreement. He explains he lends Rick money but never expects it back. Instead, uses him as the best piano player in the city, a unique form of collateral. But then, Brask issues a very clear, very chilling warning to anyone who might try to harm Rick. Rick is unequivocally under my protection, and he threatens to take a hand or arm or leg or all three if anything happens to Rick's fingers.
This is an absolutely crucial piece of information for the PI. Brask, a powerful and clearly dangerous figure, is actively protecting Rick, effectively putting a very dangerous, technologically advanced shield around him. This knowledge means the PI can largely, if not entirely, rule out Brask as the extortionist. More importantly, it tells her Rick is now protected by a formidable, non-official entity. Could be leveraged later if needed. It shifts the potential pool of perpetrators away from the high-tech, psychological manipulators towards something more traditional yet still brutal.
Brask also gives the PI an invaluable suspect insight, a direct lead. He suggests Hubbletoe's Grindle as a likely extortionist. Notes Grindle has recently started using a bit of violence to collect debts, signaling a shift in tactics. And perhaps even more importantly, he identifies Sergeant Greasy Greg as the crookedest cop in the city, and speculates that Mother Elia might use him due to her undeniable influence in the city's underworld.
Brask is an absolute goldmine of street-level intelligence, demonstrates the power of knowing who to talk to in the shadows. He provides two key pieces of knowledge: a new, plausible suspect, Grindle, who fits the violent MO, and a critical potential connection between a powerful, seemingly philanthropic figure, Mother Elia, and a corrupt police officer, Greasy Greg. This immediately gives the PI concrete, actionable leads to pursue. Demonstrates how insider knowledge from the criminal element itself is a powerful weapon in an unofficial investigation, directing her focus precisely.
So, armed with these new leads, the PI shifts focus. Following the crooked trail Brask laid out, she begins by staking out the police station, observing Greasy Greg, a man whose thinning dark hair slicked back with an almost comical amount of grease, immediately gives him away as someone who cuts corners. She meticulously follows Greg, observes his routine, first to Mother Elia's soup kitchen, then to a cheapest, dirtiest brothel, and finally to his sad-looking tenement building. Gives her a comprehensive picture of his movements, his connections, the squalid realities of his life. Hints at the financial pressures that might lead a cop down a crooked path.
This is methodical, classic surveillance work. Establishes a clear pattern of behavior, potential illicit connections. Greasy Greg's visits to the soup kitchen and the brothel immediately suggest he's not just a crooked cop taking bribes, possibly involved in a wider, entrenched network of illegal activities connected to those places. Suggests he's a cog in a larger, darker machine. Confirms Brask's initial intel. This is knowledge acquired through patient, direct observation, often the most reliable form of intelligence.
The PI then takes her investigation even deeper, goes undercover at Mother Elia's soup kitchen. For stealth, she changes into her oldest, dirtiest rags, blends seamlessly into the environment. While washing dishes, trying to appear inconspicuous, she strategically positions herself to overhear conversations. And she's rewarded. Overhears a heated argument between a beggar named Lint and a chef, maybe Tovi, sources explicit. Lint claims to have given the old lady, Ilya, info about a gambler but hasn't delivered on getting dirt on that law clerk. Leads to veiled but chilling threats of a permanent limp.
This is a fantastic piece of overheard intelligence. Raw, unfiltered. It immediately confirms Mother Elia's involvement in gathering compromising information dirt on a powerful figure like a law clerk, and the violent tactics she's willing to employ to enforce compliance within her network. Reveals a chilling ecosystem where information is literal currency and physical violence is the tool used to ensure its delivery. Lint's knowledge is clearly being exploited here. His fear is palpable, provides direct insight into Elia's modus operandi, showcases how she manipulates those beneath her to gather intelligence for her own ends.
The PI, seeing the depth of Ilya's influence, then follows her from the soup kitchen to a fortune teller's storefront. A front for other activities, no doubt. She further overhears Elia questioning someone's loyalty, possibly Tovi, the chef directly linking Tovi to the debt collection side of Elia's operations. Another crucial confirmation that Ilya is orchestrating these criminal endeavors. Later, the PI learns at the police station that Lintz was arrested for a con job. Accused a vendor, but the vendor had an airtight alibi, was at a night market with hundreds of witnesses. Seems like a clumsy, almost amateurish attempt at using false information for gain. Shows how easily such schemes fail when the target is protected by easily verifiable knowledge, like that airtight alibi.
The surveillance of Elia confirms her central controlling role in the debt collection ring, solidifies her as a central figure in this extortion scheme. Lintz's arrest, while seemingly a side note, tells the PI something valuable about the lower echelons of this network. Shows a lack of sophistication, a clumsy attempt using false info that backfired. Reinforces the idea that accurate information, like an alibi, can be a powerful shield, even against a crooked system or fabricated claims.
And now, the orphans come into the picture. Adds a disturbing new layer to the network. The PI observes Uncle Script, Marnetti's barbershop, which serves as a hub, notices orphans running messages, maybe numbers, maybe drugs. These aren't just innocent kids, clearly being exploited as a clandestine communication network. The PI is spotted by an observant orphan but manages to escape. Highlights the children's vigilance, their training, implying they're fully aware of their illicit role, immediately raises a crucial, chilling question for the PI. Could an orphan, seemingly innocent, have delivered that initial threat to Ari's father?
This introduces a new, deeply disturbing element. The use of vulnerable children in a criminal network, running messages, possibly illicit ones, under the guise of innocence suggests a level of exploitation, a hidden pervasive influence. The PI being spotted by an orphan underscores the children's vigilance, implying they're aware of their role, potentially dangerous. This is critical operational knowledge for the PI. She now knows the threat vector might not be a hardened criminal, but a manipulated child. Makes the investigation more ethically complex. It's a network built on innocence and hidden vulnerability.
The PI, with this new lead, visits Ari, who has just received yet another obscure, colorful note, this one with a veiled but unmistakable threat. Ari confirms she saw some kids around the area where the note was found, but couldn't confirm if they delivered it. The PI immediately realizes the profound challenge of definitively linking these seemingly disparate elements, the orphans, the vaguely threatening notes, Uncle Script. It's a complex web designed for deniability. The notes, being obscure and veiled, suggest a deliberate attempt by the perpetrators to make their threats generic, untraceable. A strategy of plausible deniability. This is knowledge as a weapon delivered with anonymity.
The second note, combined with Ari's observation of children nearby, strongly strengthens the orphan connection. Shifts it from mere speculation to a compelling theory. But the obscure and veiled nature of the notes is strategically brilliant from the criminal's perspective. It implies a scalable operation. The same vague threat can be mass-produced, delivered to various targets without revealing a specific sender. Makes it incredibly difficult to trace back to the source, using the very generality of the message as a form of protection.
To get a clearer picture of the orphan's activities, the PI sets up surveillance at an abandoned building across from the orphanage. And sure enough, she sees the bent cop, Greasy Greg, show up at the orphanage. Significant development. Directly suggests his deep, ongoing involvement with the orphans and the criminal network exploiting them. Cements his role in Elia's operations.
Greasy Greg's presence at the orphanage confirms his direct link to this network. Cements the idea that the crookedest cop isn't just taking bribes, but actively facilitating or protecting this illicit operation. It's a key piece of intelligence. Paints a much clearer, more disturbing picture of the scale and reach of the extortion ring. Shows a deep-seated corruption extending into the very systems meant to protect the vulnerable.
Just as the PI prepares to break into the orphanage for more definitive evidence, an unexpected sight makes her pause. Lint, the beggar she previously overheard, appears with a basket of carrier pigeons, takes them to a private home near the bazaar, adds yet another layer of old-school, untraceable communication to an already complex network, highlights the ingenuity of this criminal enterprise. Given the increasingly intertwined threads, orphans, dirty pops, pigeon messengers, the PI briefly considers hiring help due to the sheer complexity. Undeterred, she proceeds, easily breaks into the orphanage, and inside finds what she's looking for. Mysterious, threatening notes that are oddly vague, almost generic. Crucial discovery. Strongly suggests they could be used for multiple extortion targets. Solidifies the orphans as prime suspects.
The generic nature of the notes is incredibly important. Implies a highly scalable, almost industrialized extortion operation. Same vague threat mass-produced for various targets. The carrier pigeons introduce yet another layer of untraceable communication. Low-tech counterpoint to high-tech threats. Highlights the multifaceted ingenuity of this criminal enterprise. The PI's knowledge of multiple criminal techniques, from digital to avian, is truly being tested here. This discovery cements the orphans' role as deliverers of these threats, but still leaves the question, why are they targeting Rick?
The PI then makes one final observation of the power brokers. Confirms a key alliance. She observes Greasy Greg talking with Mother Elia, though the content of their conversation remains unknown. Greg then heads directly to the police station. This visual confirmation, even without knowing the specifics, firmly solidifies their collaborative relationship, reinforces the PI's understanding of the power structure behind the extortion, makes it clear Elia is using her influence and Greg is her enforcer within the official system.
The simple act of their meeting, regardless of content, is profoundly informative. Paints a picture of a criminal mastermind like Elia, leveraging corrupt elements within law enforcement to further her illicit enterprise. This direct visual confirmation is invaluable, solidifying her understanding of the complex, systemic nature of the threat.
With most pieces in place, the PI conducts a final discovery check at Scripps Barbershop. Blends in as a customer, observes the orphans. Final check confirms what she suspected. The orphans are indeed linked to Grindle Hobbletoes and are clearly dirty, involved in illicit activities. Orphans become the new prime suspects for the delivery of the notes. But a lingering question remains. Why target Rick, who doesn't actually owe them money, suggests a deeper, more personal motive, not straightforward debt collection.
This is where the PI connects the final critical dots, moves beyond the simple who to the why. Confirmation the orphans aren't operating in a vacuum, but part of a larger network under Hobbletoes Grindle is vital operational knowledge. But the fact that Rick doesn't directly owe the orphans is the crucial detail, leads the PI to the final, most personal piece of the puzzle, shifts the entire motivational focus.
That piece comes in the form of an aha moment. The PI revisits Ari, asks her a seemingly simple but incredibly insightful question. Has she ever dealt with the orphans before? Ari initially says no, then hesitates, finally admits to having featured them in a negative story in the past. This admission, this piece of long-buried knowledge from Ari's past, immediately cinches it for the PI. The orphans aren't extorting Rick for debt. They are retaliating against Ari, using their knowledge of her past journalistic actions as the direct personal motive. Her own journalistic knowledge, previously used as a tool to expose, has now become a liability, a weapon turned against her.
This is the definitive aha moment, the complete unraveling of the extortion's true motive, the personal connection, the vengeance motive, revealed to be not about Rick's financial debt at all, but about Ari's past actions as a media professional. Her journalistic knowledge, specifically used in a negative story about the orphans, became the very thing that triggered their retaliatory extortion attempt. Chilling reminder of how past actions, even those with good intentions, can echo back with dangerous consequences. This is knowledge as a weapon, wielded for retribution. Reveals a true depth of the criminal network's reach and memory.
So with the full picture now firmly in mind, understanding traditional legal avenues are compromised, the PI attempts to resolve the situation unofficially. She first tries to convince Uncle Script that the orphans are behind it, presents her meticulously gathered but scant physical evidence. Scrip, a man of the underworld who likely demands concrete proof, remains unconvinced. Highlights the limitations of informal justice when hard facts aren't present.
This highlights the significant challenge of unofficial justice. Even with a strong, well-reasoned theory, scant physical evidence makes it incredibly difficult to sway someone like Scrip. who likely values undeniable proof, concrete facts, over persuasive arguments or circumstantial links, shows the PI adapting her approach based on the audience, realizing she needs to go higher up the chain of command.
So the PI then turns to the true power broker, Mother Elia, goes to the soup kitchen, that place of apparent charity masking her true influence, uses all her charm and former con man tricks, the subtle psychological tactics she employs to build rapport, gain trust, infer truth. And in a remarkable turn, Elia believes her. Elia, the orchestrator of this insidious network, agrees to get the orphans to back off. The PI then informs Ari that the case is closed, not with arrests, but with a powerful, unofficial intervention.
This is a truly fascinating and deeply unconventional resolution. The PI doesn't rely on brute force, legal action, formal channels. Instead, she leverages her profound interpersonal skills, her deep understanding of Elia's power and influence within the underworld. Elia, who effectively controls the criminal network involving the orphans and Greasy Greg, has the unique power to stop the extortion with a word. By skillfully convincing Elia, the PI effectively uses Elia's own knowledge and authority within the illicit system to bring about a resolution that official channels couldn't. Justice in this case served not through arrests or convictions, but through strategic persuasion, leveraging power dynamics in the shadows. A testament to the PI's ability to navigate moral complexities to protect her client.
So what does this all mean when we look back at these two very different yet equally intricate investigations? From the high-stakes murder at a hidden club to the cunning extortion ring preying on a family's vulnerabilities, these deep dives reveal the hidden layers beneath seemingly straightforward events. Show us how deeply human motives, greed, envy, vengeance intertwine with complex criminal enterprises, and how a truly adept investigator must understand both.
What's fascinating here is precisely how her PI navigated each scenario, consistently outspinning her methods. From the immediate, decisive force needed to break up that catfight, to the subtle application of con man tricks and interrogation, to meticulous stealth and surveillance, and finally to incredibly strategic communication leveraging power dynamics in the shadows. She exposed not just the perpetrators, but the complex, often unseen webs of relationships, the hidden motives, the deep-seated secrets that often drive these actions. She understood that every single piece of information, no matter how small, how seemingly insignificant, could be the key to unlocking the entire truth.
And here's where it gets really interesting when we think about the overarching theme. Consider how knowledge itself became a weapon or a shield at every turn. In the Pleasures Club murder, specific details about Nero's disturbing fetishes, his desperate financial woes, the hidden surveillance cameras, all pieces of knowledge weaponized for blackmail, ultimately leading to Vivian's tragic death. Conversely, Sussman's confessions, his sharing of critical information, ultimately sealed Nero's fate and brought about his own demise. In the extortion case, Ariana's own past journalistic knowledge, her negative story about the orphans, became the very motive for the retaliation against her father. And the PI's skillful acquisition and strategic presentation of information, even unofficial intel gained through unconventional means, became the only path to resolution, serving as both her primary weapon and a crucial shield for her client.
This raises an important, even provocative question for all of us. When traditional systems fail, like with the lost evidence in the extortion case, or when perpetrators are too powerful, too entrenched to be easily caught by official channels, what does justice truly look like? And how much gray area are we willing to accept in its pursuit when the only way to truly achieve it for the victims is through these unconventional means? By leveraging influence and knowledge within the very unofficial, often illicit systems you're trying to dismantle. It forces us to consider the uncomfortable truth that sometimes the most effective path to resolution lies not in strict adherence to protocol, but in a profound understanding of the human and systemic complexities that define the shadows.